Imagine a world where free speech is under attack, and the lines between what's acceptable and what's not are constantly blurred. This is the reality we're facing today, as the Trump administration steps up its pressure on critics, and the media is forced to walk a thin line between reporting the truth and avoiding backlash. But here's where it gets controversial: the recent suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live from ABC has sparked a heated debate about the limits of free speech and the role of the government in regulating the media. The show's host, Jimmy Kimmel, made some remarks about the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk that didn't sit well with the head of the top U.S. communications regulator, who threatened Disney with an investigation and potential fines. And this is the part most people miss: the fact that Kimmel's comments were made in the context of a larger conversation about the politicization of violence and the dangers of hate speech. The Trump administration has been accused of trying to silence its critics, and the suspension of Kimmel's show is just the latest example of this trend. But what does this mean for the future of free speech in America? As Democratic lawmakers point out, the decision to pull Kimmel's show from the air is a clear example of censorship in action. The FCC's threat to investigate Disney and potentially fine the company is a chilling reminder of the power of the government to regulate the media. And yet, Republican leaders and conservative commentators argue that Kimmel's remarks were unacceptable, and that the show's suspension is a necessary step to protect the public from offensive content. But who gets to decide what's acceptable and what's not? Is it the government, or is it the people? These are the questions that are at the heart of this controversy, and they're not easy to answer. As we navigate this complex and often contentious issue, it's essential to remember that free speech is a fundamental right that's essential to a healthy democracy. But it's also important to recognize that with great power comes great responsibility, and that the media has a duty to report the truth and to avoid spreading hate speech or offensive content. So, what do you think? Should the government be able to regulate the media and dictate what's acceptable and what's not? Or should the media be free to report the truth, even if it's uncomfortable or offensive? Let us know in the comments. The case of Charlie Kirk's assassination is a tragic reminder of the dangers of hate speech and the importance of promoting tolerance and understanding. Kirk was a 31-year-old activist and Trump world celebrity known for his right-wing views and pugnacious debating style. He was shot in the neck while speaking at a Utah university, and his death has sparked a wave of mourning and outrage across the country. But as the investigation into his death continues, it's essential to remember that the spread of hate speech and the glorification of violence are not acceptable and can have deadly consequences. The Trump administration has been accused of promoting a culture of hate and intolerance, and the suspension of Kimmel's show is just the latest example of this trend. But it's not just the Trump administration that's to blame. The media also has a responsibility to report the truth and to avoid spreading hate speech or offensive content. And it's up to us, as consumers of media, to demand more from the companies and individuals that we support. So what can we do to promote tolerance and understanding in our society? How can we create a culture that values free speech and open debate, while also avoiding the spread of hate speech and offensive content? These are the questions that we need to be asking ourselves, and they're not easy to answer. But by working together and promoting a culture of tolerance and understanding, we can create a better future for ourselves and for our children. The suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live is just the latest example of the ongoing controversy surrounding free speech and the media. But it's a reminder that this is an issue that's not going away anytime soon, and that we need to be vigilant in defending our right to free speech and open debate. So let's keep the conversation going and work together to create a culture that values tolerance, understanding, and the free exchange of ideas.